You have a word on your shirt. Valencia. What does your shirt actually say there? CIA. Start with what language is it? There are questions everywhere. Look around, find something to ask about. But your phone is not the source of questions, alright? Now, it's the afternoon, this is like almost the end of the semester, everybody's tired, but I'm not getting paid to babysit. I teach at an elementary school already. I don't need another elementary school to teach at. This is supposed to be university. You're supposed to be university students. So, act like it. What? Ask something. That's it? Okay. So there's words here, yeah. Okay. So what's your question? Which part are you pointing at? The words or the picture? The words. Okay. So the words are space crane, right? It's actually not really a normal English expression, but this one you should know from, well, you know the movie, right? So where do they come from? What do we call that toy, that box that they were inside? Popular names for it is a crane game. It's a game, something you play, right? And the crane part is the arm that moves around and grabs things, right? So we use that word crane in other contexts, but you have to be careful. This word crane actually has two very different meanings. And there's also a word, an action, a verb, that means something else. So, one kind of crane is a bird. You know the birds with really long legs? Okay. The other kind of crane is a big machine that we use to lift things up like that with a hook on it. So the crane game comes from this idea, right? So it's one of the problems in English where we often have words, one word can have different meanings. Most of the time, they go back to the same idea. Most of the time. So with this one here, there probably is a relationship. Just like in Chinese. When you have a person in another character, these two are related, right? So you can explore that relationship. How do they go together? There are a lot of times where Chinese words are really easy to understand because they're pictures. Sometimes it's not as easy to understand. This one, those I get. Can anybody explain this one? That's your language. Right? So, if you're interested in understanding English words, the best thing to do is start with Chinese words. Start with your family name. 因为的名字有意思，所以你们的名字的字是哪里来的？ Where do those words come from? What do they really mean? Where do the ideas start in your history? So that's a good question. And now I'm wondering how these two go together. So I want to find out. 有问题，所以有多的问题。So. So, the oldest word that we have for this idea actually still means both. So, this word goes to a couple languages in Europe, but it goes back to Greek. So, it's 西班牙文来的，sorry， 希腊文来的，是很久很久的语言。这个语言里面，这个字。 So, my guess is that 3,000 years ago, when they had this kind of machine, it looked like this. What they had was some kind of a brace with some kind of counter at the top, and they used it like this. So, they probably named the machine because it looks like the bird. Or they make the machine and then they see a bird that looks like that, right? But in this case, these two ideas, they come from originally the same word. And it was both ideas. So it's a good question. It's one I hadn't thought about before. So can you think of any other questions? It would be better if it's about English, but okay, any question, fine. Okay, so if you want to understand Canadian culture, there's yes, thank you. When it comes to culture questions, first off, you might want to remember some words in particular. Culture is an important idea, so remember that. 文化 is culture, okay? Now, we use this in a lot of places in Taiwan. You talk about cultural buildings and so on, so it's an easy idea to remember. You see it in a lot of places. But when we talk about culture, 文化, what does it really mean? What is culture? 文化是什么? what does it include? It's people, right? But is it the people, or is it what the people do? Right? It's what people do, and that means what they eat. So it includes things like food. What else? History, right? History, and in particular, traditions, right? The history doesn't just belong to one group of people, but how they act because of their history. That gives us culture. So traditions, things that we usually do, right? What else? Clothes, right? What you wear is part of your culture. What else? Buildings, right? How we make our buildings, what they look like. We call it architecture, but we can just go with the word buildings. And so much more. Books, writing, literature, poetry, music, art, right? And of course, language. Now, the thing is, when we talk about culture,